utilize two different ways of installing the license. Right, first I'll use the manual way of installing the license, and then I'll teach you that how to install the license automatically. But in case, as I mentioned before, that if you want to install the license automatically, then uh, just make sure that your big IP itself is having an internet access, and that I can provide using management interface. Okay. Okay. It's been loaded now, right? Okay. Root. Let me log in. Perfect. TMSH. So there are so many commands that you could utilize under TMOS, right? Because I'm not going to teach you Linux. I'll be using TMOS only. So TMOS is kind of Cisco IOS. So there are various commands that you could use. So for example, if you wanted to see something, then show command is there, right? Then if you wanted to list something, then list command is there. If you wanted to create something, create command is there. Or if you wanted to modify something, modify command is there. If you wanted to delete something, so delete command is there, right? So let's say I just wanted to list the system management IP. So management IP. So the management IP is 2.111. So let me have access to this big IP using this 2.11 IP address, right? So 2.11. So here we go. So I'll have to put the HTTPS, right? Because if I don't put HTTPS, then I'll not be able to have the access to this big IP machine. So the IP address is 2.111. I'm so sorry. So I tried to access 2.11. However, it should have been 2.111. Perfect. So the default username is the admin that we set yesterday. So username is admin, and the password that we set yesterday was imerita@123. So that I already saved yesterday, so I don't have to put that password again. But you can see that there is no license exist on this device. So to install the license, we must have the registration keys, right? So in case if you want to make practice in our lab, then we will be responsible to provide you the registration keys, but also you can get them by your own by applying for the test keys, right? So I'll let you know that how you could apply for that. So Arjun, in case if you need them, you can also apply for the demo license. So go to fi.com. So in case if you go and access f5.com, so over website itself you can apply for the demo license. So in case if you are going through the products and then Big IP series appliances, you go there and then if you scroll down and keep scrolling down, and then you should get a start a trial and get a free trial, right? So free trial, and then you have like Big IP and Big IP virtual edition. So that's what we will be using. So like virtual edition is something that you can install over VMware Workstation or maybe VMware ESXi or over KVM or over the hypervisors. Okay, so get the free trial, click on that link, and then you can see that you can get a 30 days long free trial. Okay, so then login or register, click on login or register. So if you already have an account, right, if you already have an account, then you can directly log in, and if in case if you do not have account, then you will have to register yourself. Okay, I don't know why it's taking so long time. Okay, perfect. So, I mean, F5 login page will pop up, and thereafter you can log in using your credentials, or maybe you can create one account for yourself if you don't have, right? So, if you don't have any account over f5.com, then you should go ahead and create one, right? And in case if you already have a user ID and password, then go ahead and log in using those credentials. So now I'm logging in using my own credentials, right? So that's how it would look like, but it is showing me, it is displaying me that I have already accessed the maximum allowed virtual edition file keys per year, right? So but again I could go to trial home, right? And then oh my god, oh, wait, okay, my account, okay, and then downloads, and from there I could also download like so they have also launched the version 16. That's something that I didn't knew before, right? So was aware about the Big IP version 15, but now they have also launched the version 16, DMOS version 16. So that, I mean, the DMOS version that we are using in our lab is version 14. So if you click on version 14, right, go to version 14, and then 14.1.2 or whatsoever. So 14.1.2 is the latest one, and then you could select here 14.1.2.7 virtual edition. Just click on it, right? So you can start downloading this image. Then it will also ask that from which server you want to use it. I mean, you want to download it. So I'll say just I accept the end user license agreement. And thereafter, you can see here Big IP version 14.1.27 all VMware OVA. So that's what you need to download. So the size of this file is 2 GB approximately. Click on this file, and then you will see that it will start downloading from any one of these servers, maybe from Singapore. So let's say I select Singapore. So now you can see that my downloading has been started here, right? So it's approximately 2 GB, right? So I already have that file with me, that OVA file. But in case if you don't have that, you can download it from this account. And from this account itself, you could also apply for the license. But I would request you, Arjun, to create your account. That's it. And to download this OVA file if you want to download it, right? So you can download this OVA file, but don't apply for the license, because I will tell you that how to apply for the license, right? So once you will create your account, it will also ask you to apply for the registration keys, but don't apply for that. Just download this OVA file, okay? So once you download this OVA file, and also make sure that you have VMware Workstation installed on your local machine, and I believe that you are already aware with the process. Am I correct, Arjun? Because since you have already gone through multiple trainings, so probably you have gone through that. Okay. So if you have VMware Workstation and then you have downloaded this OVA file, just go ahead and get it installed on your local machine in case if you want to create a lab on your local machine. But as I mentioned before, you can also have access to our online labs, right? And that's what I will recommend you to access our online labs and to make practice over there, right? So once you will start making practice in our labs, then make sure that, um, I mean, like you have the trial keys, registration keys, right? So that I'll provide you. So in case if you are planning to perform some practice over our online labs, make sure that you have those keys and you just let me know before you begin with your practice, so that I can arrange some registration keys for you. At least I'll arrange at least 2 different keys, right? And it will be valid for 30 days, right? So make sure that you install them on time when it is required. Okay. So this is how you would download it. That's that piece. And thereafter, let me go back and I had access to my big IP, right? So now I'm gonna install the license on it, right? So I'll just click on next. So first step would be to install the license. So let me activate the license. So it will ask for the base registration key. So I already have them. So let's say I have these base registration keys. So I've just copied this one key here, and then I went there, and then I paste my registration key. Now you have 2 different options. One is automatic and one is manual. So this time I'm going to perform manual one, right? So manual, just select manual and paste your registration keys and then click on next. So it will create a dossier file now, right? Using your machine's configuration, its serial number, the certificate, and of course these registration keys. Okay. So by combining all of them together, it will create a dossier file like this. And then it also has a link to access your F5 licensing server. Just click on that so that you can have access to this F5 licensing server. And thereafter, you just copy this dossier file this way, copy it, and then paste it over your server, licensing server. So it is asking for the dossier file. I have pasted it here, then click on next. Once you will click on next, then it will ask for accepting the end user license agreement, then click on next. By accepting it, and thereafter you should get a license file. So once you will get this license file, then you can start working on it. You can see that you have got the license file now. You can scroll this down, right? And then you can just अरे बबलू गया है लेने हेलो अरे यहाँ बैठे हो क्या एक सेकंड होल्ड करना यहाँ बैठे हो क्या सोफा क्यों बैठ रखा है कहाँ अरे तो वही तो बोल रहा हूँ मैं ही देता आपको All right, guys. So now we have this license file with us. Control A, Control C, copy your license file and go back to your Big IP UI interface. So you have pasted your license here, then click on next. So that's how you're gonna install the license on your Big IP. So now it must get activated. So once you install your license, it will restart your services, right? So yeah, it might take some time here, right? So that's the process, or that's how you can install the license manually on your Big IP. So in case if you have any questions around that, please go ahead and ask your questions. But it's quite easy, right? It's quite easy, seriously. It will take some time, right? So we will have to wait for some time. Okay, so now we can continue. All right. So now once your license is installed, the next step would be to perform resource provisioning. So as I said, like LTM, if you look at the LTM, it's nominal, right? So you have multiple options over there: dedicated, nominal, minimum. Don't go for minimum, because in minimum the performance of LTM, right? With minimum, like if you select minimum, which means the minimum resources will be allocated for the LTM, right? And the performance of the LTM will be quite low, right? So nominally is better, but in case if you know very well that this big IP is gonna be utilized only for LTM, then go for dedicated, because then entire resources of this box will be utilized only for the LTM function, right? Only for the LTM services, right? So if you, I mean, nominal is fine, but you could also go for the dedicated, but don't go for minimum, right? So dedicated is something like, so all the resources are allocated for LTM services. Okay. So dedicated or maybe nominal, like that. Okay. So I'll keep it nominal, and rest you can see that nothing is provisioned. Right now, I'll just click on next. So provisioning is done. So you had only three options: nominal, minimal, and dedicated. So that's now your device certificate, right? So now this is your device certificate, and this is the certificate that will be utilized when you access your device using HTTPS. You can see, I mean, this is device certificate that it's utilizing, right? So in case if you want to use the self-sign certificate, keep utilizing it, right? But in case if you want to modify your device certificate, go ahead and you can import a new certificate, right? So it's totally up to you. But yeah, let me keep utilizing the self-sign certificate. So let me just click on next, and then it is asking for the management interface IPs and so forth. So I assigned an IP address to this big IP using I mean, I assigned an IP address to its management interface manually, so that's why it's 2.11/24, right? And then host name, let me assign like ltm1.cisco.com, like that. Okay. The host IP address, the management IP port address would be host IP address, and then time zone, it's by default America Los Angeles, but you could change it like anything what you want, like the Kolkata, right? And then root password, so I'm gonna keep it same. SSH access is by default enabled, and then SSH IP allow, right? So just click on next. Thereafter, now just click on next, right? Because you could go ahead and click on next, then it will ask for the high availability, VLANs, and like that. But That's something that we can perform later, right? So you can just go ahead and click on finished. So you are done with the initial config. Now your device is ready to use, right? So you can see that in left side, you have LTM, right? Which means you have already installed the license of LTM on this big IP, okay? If this LTM doesn't appear, which means the license of LTM is not available, right? But this time you can see that LTM is there, which means license is there, and also you have provisioned it on your box. And that's why this option, this tab is appearing in the left side, okay? So now in left side, you have so many tabs like statistics, IAP, DNS. DNS is for GTM, right? But it's not provisioned yet. Since it's not provisioned, you cannot utilize that. And thereafter, it's LTM that we will be using, right? We will be utilizing this LTM. Thereafter, device management is there. Thereafter, shared objects is there, right? Network tab is there. So network tab is pretty important because network tab will allow you to configure IP addresses onto interfaces, to create VLANs, to configure Ether channel, to configure access lists, right? Like that. You can see ARP table, you can configure IPsec tunnel, right? You can create GRE tunnel. So that's pretty important, right? Network tab. Thereafter, you have system tab. System tab is mainly for like file management, the certificate management, disk management, software management, the license, resource provisioning, platform, high availability, archives, services, preference, SNMP, crypto offloading, users, logs, logins. You know, one more, there is one feature, right? So you could see that whoever logged onto your device in past, using which user ID and password. You could also look for the summary, how many times your authentication got failed when somebody tried to log on onto your device, right? So it will have a complete history from the login side, right? You can also check for the logs. So under logs, you have so many different logs like system logs, audit logs, packet filter logs like ACL logs, okay? And then local traffic logs, which is related to LTM only, okay? And also you could configure the remote syslog server to store your log messages, right? So that's not something that I'm going to teach you now. That's, I'll start with that, but you know, I just wanted to give you a overview of that, okay? So that's how you will begin with a fresh box, okay? So that's how you would install a license on your big IP, and that's how you would, you know, uh, I mean, you would complete the initial configuration of your box, right? Thereafter, you can go back to your CLI. In fact, you can download your CLI. I mean, you can access your box using CLI by SSH. So putty and then 2 1, it's 111, right? Put one root. I made it at 123. Even SSH is enabled onto management port. So using management, I have accessed my big IP using CLI. So using TMSH, now I'm inside TMOS, and under TMOS, you will be using all of the commands from the TMOS only. So make sure running config like this. So it will display you entire running config, right? That's your running config that currently you have on this box, big IP, right? But also you could look for running config only for system, right? So that's only for system, right? And thereafter you could see only for LTM. That's the running config only for LTM. And similarly, you could also look for the authentication. So that's your user ID and password. And thereafter, you could also look for, you have multiple options. So you could type question mark, and then you could see here all of the like related to management interface, right? And show running, and then you could use any one of these options like network tab. So there is running configuration onto network tab, right? So network tab is having a lot of interfaces like 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and management port, of course, right? So 1.1, 1.2, these are the interface nomenclature, right? So when I say nomenclature, which means like in Cisco, you call these interfaces like fast Ethernet 0 by 0, 0 by 1, 0 by 2. But in big IP, you will call them like 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, like this. Okay. You can also see the default MTU size is 9198. right? So it can allow the jumbo frames, and also you can see that default bandwidth, I mean the MAC address, and of course, I mean you can see all that configuration. Similarly, you can also see for management interface the MAC address, right? So that's how you could look for it, and that's that piece. So you could see running config onto your box, right? By putting show running command, and then also you could see list command, list, and then you have different modules, right? Like system related. So list sys management IP, list sys, list auth, right? And then list, and then I could say NAT. So it will list all the network related information here, right? Thereafter, you could also say create. So that I'll let you know with time, okay? So let's get back to the GUI now. So like in GUI under main, we have so many tabs available, like iApps, LTM, network, system. In similar way, we had different modules in CLI, like system, network, LTM, like that. So under system tab now, let me start with the system tab first of all. So if I talk about the configuration and then device configuration, right, go to system tab, configuration, device configuration, and then you can make any configuration like general, NTP, DNS. You could also create the host entries like you do onto your end user machines inside host file. So that option is also available onto Big IP. You can also make the configuration related to SMTP and also related to SSSD like that. So if I go to general, so under general, you could reboot your operations, right? Like you can reboot your Big IP from here. And also you can see the host name, the chassis number, the version, the number of CPUs and the active CPUs that currently you have, okay? So that's that. And thereafter, you could also go for the NTP. So in case if you have some NTP servers, right? So like, for example, I had a NTP server, India NTP server. So you can see India NTP servers. So that's one of the NTP server that we have for India that you could add here. But in that condition, make sure that your DNS is also there, and also you have internet reachability. Okay. So you could update it. So that's how you could update the NTP server. Then same goes with the DNS. So DNS is going to be, let's say 808 like this. Okay. And then you could update it. Thereafter, if you want to create any host file, hey, that's the IP address, let's say 2.100 or 110, host name is www.google.com, right? So this is how you could create the host entries under host file. SMTP, so in case if you want to send an email, then you will have to configure the SMTP, okay? But that's not something that I'll be configuring here. And thereafter, you have SSSD. So for SSSD, you could define some banner over here, okay? Hey, this is for testing, okay? Then you could say show security banner on the login screen. I say check mark, update, and thereafter you go back to your putty, exit, quit, exit, and then access it again using putty. So the IP address of your Big IP is 111, root, and now you can see, hey, this is for testing, right? You can see that I made it at 123, so you could see that banner over here, right? The message. And similarly, you could even perform using CLI. So for example, if you wanted to modify the NTP or DNS servers, or you wanted to see them that which all are the DNS servers you have configured on your Big IP, right? So you could just say, hey, list, right, space, and then name servers. Like this. You want to modify that list? It's up to you. Just say create, right? Or maybe modify, sys, DNS, name servers, right? And I could say replace all with 8.8.8. Packet closed. Here you go. And then you will have to save your config. So the command would be save sysconfig. So save sysconfig will save your configuration that you have made using CLI. So always keep in mind that if you are making changes onto your big IP using CLI, then you will always have to save your configuration, right, manually. But in case if you are making changes using GUI, then you don't have to be worried about saving your config, because as soon as you make changes using GUI, your changes will get saved automatically, right, dynamically. Any questions so far?
Sir, in journal, in system journal, what
Sorry,
does
your voice is not clear,
hello,
not audible to.
hello,
Maybe
sir,
microphone is not better. Who is that?
Rahul this side, sir.
Sir, please come closer to
Uh,
your microphone.
एक minute. I'll connect other headset then. Just
No problem. So guys, this is how you could change that, and now even you can check those changes onto your DNS using GUI. This time you have only 8.8.8 because you have changed that. Okay. Similarly, if you wanted to modify your NTP server, so you could say list sys NTP server. Okay, so that's how you could see that. But in case if you want to modify that, so modify sys NTP servers, right? And then you could see delete, and then delete. What do you have?
Hello, sir.
Delete.
Am I audible
Yes,
now?
you are audible now.
Okay, sir. In the general tab, there was a force offline. What does it do exactly?
What?
There was a button for force offline in general device. I think system general configuration device. Yeah.
Force offline. So it will forcefully put your big IP into offline state. Like it won't do anything. It is quite similar to what I explained you to put your nodes or members into offline state. Remember?
Yes. Okay.
So that's same thing. All right. So that I'll explain later on as well. Once I'll start with LTM part, then also I'll explain it to you that the difference between forceful offline and then there are multiple options available. So when we will start with the monitors, then I'll teach you that. So now you can even change the I mean I have changed the NTP server config. So now if I say list sys NTP server, there is nothing, right? Because I have deleted that. Okay. Thereafter, you could also say delete, and then delete what? Sys DNS. Not DNS. So there is no delete command for that. Fine, no problem. So you could just say modify sys DNS, delete DNS, and then you could say name servers, and then delete, and then you could have delete, or you could delete whatever you want, right? Like this. Save sys config. And in similar way, you could also see it for SSH, right? So you could say list sys SSHD allow. Okay. So by default, anyone can access any IP address, like host having any IP address can access to this device using SSHD. But in case if you want to put the allowed list, then you could say create this SSHD, right? Oh my God, modify this SSHD, allow, add what? So let's say I just wanted to allow 2.0/24. Also 1.0/24. Bracket close. So I have added these two subnets. Now if you say list sys SSD allow, okay, we have these two options, but configuration has not been saved yet, right? So to save that, the save sys config like this. One more thing I would like to show you here. If you have worked over Junos, the Juniper operating system, you could also use it in this way, like modify, like go to sys, say name DNS, name servers, I mean, you can see now here add wait. Okay, so modify net servers and then add like this. The command will get reduced. The syntax will get reduced, right? So if you come out, I mean, if you want to come out from there, then you could say either exit to come out one by one, or just backslash to directly go back to your TMOS or to home directory, right? And thereafter, this is an NTP, and then you could say modify, add, I mean, modify, server, add, and what? You could just do the copy paste, right? Bracket close, enter. Now, if you say save sysconfig, this command will not be executed. Incomplete command, right? So, in case if you are already inside some other tab or some other module and you want to save your config, then say save backslash sysconfig like this. It's like do in Cisco, do command in Cisco, right? So that's how you would do it. Similarly, if you wanted to move inside from NTP, you wanted to move inside DNS. Wait. Exit DNS, that's fine. There's a way to move into different mode directly. Like I'm gonna say LTM. Yeah, I went there. Okay, all right. So yeah, so I was inside system, but now by exit by putting this command backslash and then LTM, so you are inside LTM now. Come out from there, say exit, right? So whatever we did using the GUI, we have done it using CLI. Even you could also set the banner using CLI. Okay. So for example, if you wanted to say modify, space, SSSD, banner, and then enable, and then banner text, right? And then it's you could say none, or this is CLI testing. Why? Wait, huh? No, still it's showing me a non-property. Why? No, why? This SSSD modify and a text. Okay, this time it took it. Hello. So I just said hello, right? And then come out, say save sysconfig, and then just Wait from there and say exit and access it once again using 30. And the IP address was 1. And then hello is there, right? So whatever you did using GUI, you can also do it using CLI, right? So you can see that. All right, perfect. Thereafter, let's go to the file management. Under file management, you could create the data groups, and that I'll let you know later on that what is the purpose of having data groups, right? So as of now, I don't have to go for it. The file management, I don't have to go for that. Certificate manager management, that's pretty important, right? So here you will always get two different options. One, device certificate. Other one is traffic certificate. One is device certificate. The other one is traffic certificate. Okay. So you have these two different options. One traffic certificate and second one is device certificate. So traffic certificate management will help you out once you will go for the SSL decryption, right, or SSL offloading. So at that time you will apply traffic certificate management. But in case if you want to utilize this certificate for the traffic management, then go ahead and go to traffic certificate management, SSL certificate list, and then upload your SSL certificate over here. So this is where you upload the traffic certificate, right? And in case if you want to change the device certificate, then go to device certificate. I mean, in the beginning also it asked me to change the device certificate, but this is also where you can change your device certificate. Okay, the same thing, the same thing that you could do in during initiating your box, or so when you brought your device up at that time also, like when you installed the license, so it also asks you to change the device certificate, but that can also be done later on like this. Okay. Then disk management will display you that how much memory you have, I mean how much, not memory, how much storage you have and how much has been consumed and how much is free. Okay. The software management, it will display you that which version of software you are currently utilizing, right? And that's how you do it, right? So let's say I just wanted to upgrade it, right? So I have already downloaded one updated image, right? So let me just go to show in folder. So that's in downloads, Control X, go to drive D and then paste it here. So 14.1.2, right? So I have that. So now I'll go back and then I'll say import, and then it will ask for the, for the image. So that's 14.1.2, right? Import it. So that's how you're gonna import it, right? So progress is still 0%, but I see that we do not have enough space available, to install this on the same drive, right? Because only 20 GB was free. So at last it should throw me an error, but this is how you're gonna upgrade it, right? So I was using 14.1 14.0.1 like that, but I had then this the updated image, and that's what I'm uploading to it. I'm uploading the upgraded, updated image to my BigEye. So that's how you could upgrade your operating system, right? Let it go on. Let it go on until it's going off. It is almost done, right? So it has copied the OVA file and thereafter it will ask for installing it, right? So it's been 100% now. Where is that? Wait. Code. Maybe it was not 100%. I just did it, right? I refreshed it, so that's why it lost. But this is how you are going to do it, right? So once you will upload this OVA file, then it will be displayed here, and then select it and then click on install. And thereafter, you can go to the boot location, and over here you could select that with which operating system you want to boot up. Okay, that's how you can upgrade the operating system image thereafter, and make sure that you are always upgrading your TMOS version only on standby unit. First, upgrade it on standby unit. If everything goes well, perform failover, make standby as active, and thereafter upgrade operating system over active machine, right? Update check. So if you have the internet access over this interface, then you could also check the updates, right? So let me do one thing. Even I can perform that now, right? So let me just have internet access on this machine. To do so, what I will do, I'll change its switch. Settings, and thereafter, here we go. Lane segment, breeze. Right, and okay, and thereafter edit, virtual network editor, change settings, then VMNet 1, bridge, one second. I'll have to shut down it, right? Shut down this host first of all. So everything will get closed now. Because in case if I want to change if I want to check the updates, right? And I must have internet reachability. Do so, say settings, right? And thereafter, edit, VMNet 1, there is no untrace. I have made a lot of changes here. And I have to provide internet reachability to check the updates, and that's what I'm trying for. Okay, so therefore, I don't know why it's not letting me. This is something ridiculous. Okay, I got it now. So I'll have to see that which interface it is, right? I believe it's Centrino, my Wi-Fi network, right? And CPL or CPL. So that's Centrino. Yeah, that's correct. So I have connected, I have bridged VMNet 1 with Centrino, and thereafter, apply, and then OK. Here we go. Edit virtual machine and VMNet 1. Right, power on this machine. VMNet 1 is not there now. Wow, that's really ridiculous. Seriously. Wait a moment, please. So first I'll have to say config, and then I'll have to make sure that it is getting an IP address from the DHCP server only, right? So IPv4, no. Okay, so go to DMSH, modify this management IP, create this management IP, Just ridiculous. Modify this. Just a moment. I'm trying to get this down. Yeah. Management DSCP. Modify this. So the IP address is configured statically, but instead of it, I have to make sure that it get an IP address dynamically from the DSCP server. Then only our system will be able to communicate with the internet, right? So I'm just skipping that command, and probably that we did it before, Rahul. So if you have that command with you, please do let me know.
So I'm checking.
That management. Right. Wait a moment. Just a sec. I'm trying to check this on. Maybe I was missed something, or I don't really think that I missed something, but let me see that. I'm not able to get any command like that for the, to obtain an IP address from the DHCP server. But yeah, I remember that I did configure it before. Just a moment. Seriously. This is not something which is not supported by the box. No, I do not agree with that because I did it before and we obtained an IP address from the DHCP server, right? Oh, is management IP modify. Did you get anything, Rahul?
Hello, sir. I'm checking if I could find any command for DSCP.
I just missed it. I don't know how, but that I'm pretty sure because we have done it so many times and we always got an IP address form. All right, guys, then let me do one thing. Okay, I will not spend much time on it, right, on my R&D. So let me do one thing. Let me assign an IP address form the same range that we are using in our network, right? So what I will do, I'll just go ahead and here we go. Like create, right? Sys management IP 191.68.0.247/24, and then creates this management route, and then default gateway, right? Gateway is 0.1, and thereafter I'll just say create or modify this DNS name server, add what 8.8.8, and here you go. Save this config, and thereafter let me have access to this device now. List this management IP, and also let me try to ping my gateway, which is 0.1, which is reachable, and thereafter I'll just go ahead and I'll access it using GUI. So its own IP address is 247, right? So HTTPS 192.168.0.47, so that I can have access to this box. Accept risk and continue. Username admin, password imelita at 123, right? And thereafter go to host file, system configuration, then host, so that I can get this removed. So management IP itself got changed, right? So that's that piece. And even from I mean, I can access it using putty. So I can just assign IP address 0.247, right? And I made it at 123. So I'm logged in, right? And from here, I can try to ping www.google.com. So I have already configured DNS. So I do have access to internet right now. Thereafter, I'll just go to what? Where? I'll just go to resource. Sorry, I'll go to software management. Somebody did chat.
Sir, I found a command to disable DSCP.
No. That's something different.
So I think okay.
No problem. No problem. See, using GUI, it is pretty straightforward. Go to platform, system platform, and then say automatic. So I must have the command to configure it via DSCP using CLI also, but leave it now. So guys, I'm back on software management, right? Update check, automatic update check, or maybe check now. So click on check now. So if I click on check now, now you can see, since it has internet connectivity, so if it has some, you know, some updates over there, then it can show you, it can display you automatically, right? So you can see that these all updates are available, right? Okay, so that's how you could see that, and then you know, this is how you would check your updates, and thereafter, in case if you have some hot fixes, right? So you could download them. You could download those hot fixes from your website, and then you could install them here, right? So that's why I wanted to provide internet reachability to your box, because to check this update, okay? So yeah, that's how it happened, right? This is how you would check the updates in case if your big IP is having internet access. So at the moment, your big IP is having internet access, right? So that's why we were able to check this out. Thereafter, as I said, image list. So if I say import and 14, let me select once again the different version that I downloaded, the updated one, 14.1.2.7. Import that, and again, it will take so long time to copy the data onto this big IP machine, right? But ultimately, it will get copied over here, right? But I mean, that's how you can check the software management and so forth, right? So let me do one more thing. Software management license. Okay, so license, open a new tab. So this tab, I'll keep it open, and then let me go to next tab. So you could also click on the license. From here, you can get the summary of your license, which license you have installed. So you can see that it's the evaluation license, license date. The expiration date would be 6th of October. Active modules are all these modules, right? And thereafter, you could also see the resource provisioning. So you can change your resource provisioning under system tab at any point of time, right? So whenever you need to change resource provisioning. Let's say now I wanted DNS, which is GTM, global traffic. I wanted to get this enabled, to go and check this and click nominal, right? So that's fine. So this is what you do, what you could do later on, right? And also I'll tell you that how to enable the module that's called application visibility and reporting, AVR. So I'll work on that. So you can change your resource provisioning at any point of time. Then you could go to the platform. Onto platform, you could change the host name, you could change the management ID, root password, SSH enabled or disabled. Then high availability will show you, over here, you could check like the high availability, and then HA wizard you could start with, right, from system tab itself. So high availability HA wizard, or maybe failsafe. So failsafe you could configure using gateway, VLANs, or system, right? So I'll let you know once I'll start with the high availability, then I'll explain you the meaning of that, but not now. Archive is just it's a method of taking backup of your machine. Okay, so if I click and here create, go to archive and then click on create. So you can assign some name here like just one. Encryption disabled, private keys exclude. Finished. So it has taken the backup of your device. Okay, and the backup will be taken in the format of UCS file. UCS stands for user configuration system, like that. Or I mean, UC stands for user configuration, as I'm not 100% sure. But you can take backup in the format of UCS, and this file has been saved at this location. Okay, using SCCP or FTP, you could upload this file from your local big IP machine to your remote FTP server, right, or SFTP server. But that's where you could go and check it, right? So even if I go back to my Linux machine, so I'll just say quit, and thereafter CD var CD under var, it's a local, and then CD, then it was UCS, and then CDIR. So you can, okay, CD UCS. Okay, so DIR under var. Okay, I was not inside local, right? So I must go inside local first. So CD local. What happened? Okay, local, and thereafter DIR, UCS is there. So CD, UCS, under UCS DIR. So you see, you have your file in the UCS format. And also, if you go to system, you can see, and then even you can download it, right? So if you click on this UCS file, you can download this UCS file onto your local machine. So that option is also available, right? So it's up to you that how do you want to save it. But using CLI also, you could export it from your big IP to your remote FTP server, or you could access it using WinSCP, right? So open your WinSCP and access it using its IP address to 0.247.168.0.247, and then user ID is root, right? And then password is imedita at 123. Okay, so that's how you could access it. Continue, you will get connected to this machine, then go inside this directory, and then you're gonna get into work, then local, right? And then you would go to UCS, and then you could copy this file to your local machine. Okay, so it's up to you that how do you want to copy this backup file. And thereafter, you could also click on restore, right? So if you have like multiple UCS file and you want to restore that, just click on that file. Then you will also get an option of restoring that file. Okay. There is one more way to take the backup of your big IP. One is in the form of UCS. Other one is in the simple configuration file, like in text file. Okay. So that is also known as SCF. So that can be done using CLI only. So you could also say, like, let me just go ahead and CD. All right, so go to DMSH, right? And thereafter, you could say create. Create, and then you could say CLI, and then not CLI, basically. Save sys config, or you could say UCS, but not UCS. This time the config file UCS, and then I'll just say file and then file name. Let's say test1 or test2 Saurabh, right? And thereafter I'll say no passphrase, and also I'll say exclude
private.
where is that? No passphrase is sufficient, I believe. Yes, it is sufficient. So now you can see at this location under SCF, simple configuration file, you have test2 Saurabh file. Okay, so you can go to WinSCP, and if you come out, right, if you come out, and then under SCF, you have test Saurabh, and you can take this file to local your machine, and then you could open up this SCF file, test2 Saurabh, open with Notepad++, and here you could see the configuration of your box. This is your configuration. You can open up it into text format. But in case if you have taken your backup in UCS format, then you cannot open that file in text format, okay, or in MS Word or something like that. So there are two different ways to take the backup of your machine. One in the form of UCS that can be done using GUI CLI both, but SCF format can be done using CLI, right? So even you could say save this UCS, and then test2 no pass private key, and no private key, and then I could say passphrase, no passphrase, right? So just no private key. That's fine. So you have created a UCS backup file, and even you could load the backup file over here, right? You could also load the backup file, like load this config, and then you can see file and then file name. So test2 Saurabh. So I could load that file as well, or load this UCS and then file name. Okay, so you could load any backup file over here using CLI. Also, you could say load this config default. Okay, so if you say load sysconfig default, which means you are putting your box into factory default mode, except management config and license. License will remain there, right? And your management config will remain there, except that everything else will be deleted, right? So that's how you could put your box into default state. So the command was load sysconfig default. Okay. So So that's how you can do it using CLI. So using CLI, you can take backup, you can restore backup, you can put your box into default config, right, factory default mode, like this. Once again, the setup will get initiated, the system setup, right? So admin, admin, because default username and password is admin, admin, right? So admin, new password is iMerita at 123, iMerita at 123. So admin, because by default username and password is admin, admin using for the GUI access, okay? So this time say next, license is already there, so say next, provisioning is already there for LTM, say next, and then it will ask for the device certificate, then platform where you can assign the host name, so LTM1 cisco.com, and then you could also, you will have to assign the root password. So I'm putting as same as the admin password, that's iMedita. Right, at the rate 123, and then click on next. Local traffic is there, system, and once again you can start with backup and so forth, right? So I'm not going to do so. So platform high availability, I have already discussed this with you. Now I'm going to discuss about the SNMP. So in case if you want to configure SNMP, and that's same as before, same as like the Cisco devices or Juniper devices or any other vendor specific device. So you can configure the agent version 1, version 2C. Traps you could configure, right? Also you could configure the trap destinations, so that in case a trap is generated, so it can send those traps to this destination. Okay, you will have to provide destination IP, port number, network, and also community string that you would like to utilize here and version, right? So, but before that, you just have to configure the community over here, right? So version 1, 2C community, you can create them over here, right? So you could create, you can provide community, OID, read only or read write both. So it's up to you. And thereafter you can make or you can configure the traps. You can configure the destination for your traps. But before that, you will have to create the community. So that's where you can configure the SNMP. Users, you can create them. So you know very well that for CLI access, you have root user ID and password, right? And even in case if you want to create some more user ID and passwords, you could click on create, and then you could create multiple user ID password over here, right? So let's say Saurabh, right? Password iMedita at 123. iMedita at 123. I want to provide the administrator access to this user, add, thereafter terminal access, make it TMSH. Click finished. This is how you created this user ID password, right? So now log out from this machine using CLI, and this time I'll be taking access using my own credentials. 0.47 Saurabh iMerita at 123. That's how you would log in onto your box using CLI. But I enabled, I enabled TMSH. Okay, I enabled TMSH here, if you remember. Only TMSH, right? I could also say advanced shell, which will also allow me to have the access of the Linux. Update. Now, if I say quit, I would have access to the to the Linux as well. So 0.47 Saurabh. I made it at 123. Here you go. So now this time you got the advanced CLI access, which includes Linux as well as TMSH. So even if you go to TMSH, you would be inside TMOS. You could also allow only TMOS. By default, it's disabled. Remember, if you are creating a user that cannot have access to your big IP using CLI by default, okay? So if you really want to provide an access to your end user, sorry, to your admin user using CLI, then you will have to get it enabled using advanced shell or TMS. And again, it is totally up to you, okay? That how do you want to provide the access to your user. So here you could create like a lot of users, like local users, but also you could integrate your big IP with Active Directory or Radius or TechX like that, okay? So you could go to the authentication, and currently it's local authentication which is enabled. You could change it. You could also say advanced, then you could change it. Thereafter, you could make it like Active Directory, and then you could provide the host, right? So this host over here, you can see, and you just have to provide an IP address, right? Just have to provide an IP address of the Active Directory, okay? That's what you will have to do under host. Then remote directory, scope, binding, right? So that's what you have to do if you are integrating the Active Directory, or maybe LDAP, or maybe Radius, or maybe TechX. So it does support for Radius, TechX, all, okay? Also, you could say here, fall back to local, right? So in case if TechX goes down, then you can get authenticated using local, okay? Same goes with LDAPs, sorry, for Radius, right? And TechX. That's primary and secondary. You could define the secondary as well, but also fall back to local, right? That is also there. Primary only, primary, secondary, so it's all up to you. Okay, guys. So even you can configure, I mean, you can integrate your big IP with the Radius or TechX server for the authentication purpose, for admin authentication. For like, if you have like 100 admins, 100 engineers in your organization, this is not really a good idea to have 100 user ID password created locally on this box. Better to integrate it with Radius or TechX and then create user ID password onto TechX or Radius server and get your admin users authenticated from there. Okay. So you will have to configure the authentication over here. Here you can create local user ID and password, but remember that role is pretty important, right? So you could have like guest, operator, application editor, like that. So we have different roles, and for different roles, we have different different permissions, right? So you could see here, like if you search for big IP roles, right? Big IP admin roles, right? So you can see that we have big IP TMOS admin roles, user roles, okay? We can just go through it. You can see that we have these different roles over here, like administrator, manager, certificate manager. So you can see manager. This role grants user permission to create, modify, delete virtual servers, pool member, nodes, custom profile, custom monitors, iRules. These users can view all objects on the system and change their own passwords. Okay. Certificate manager, this role will grant the admin users to permission to manage device certificate and keys, as well as perform federal information processing standard operations. That's it, right? And also you have like administrator, which is like you are allowing everything, right? Application editor, firewall manager. So these all are the roles that you will find on your big IP. Okay. So I mean, you can read that which role is having which all access, right? So that's what you have over here. Okay, this is what I explained here, right? Like it has different roles over here, right? So as per the different roles, they will have the access to it. Okay, so you could also provide the access of manager. Okay. All right. So thereafter, under users itself, we have one another option available, which is of partition. So partition is nothing but is to divide this box into multiple, I would say, multiple virtual kind of administration stuff. Okay. So for example, I have a big IP. I have multiple customers, like I'm a web service provider, and I have deployed big IP load balancer in my own environment. I have multiple customers, and now customers are asking to have access to my big IP. They just want to have an access to my big IP. I know that they will not be making any changes. Like customer is not asking or is not asking to make changes over big IP. Okay, finally you got it, huh? Let me see the command. No, this is not. No, man, this is not a complete. No,
Okay, so then so
this is not. All right. So I was talking about like you can create then different partitions for each customer, right? So let's say I've created a partition A, right, for customer A, partition B for customer B, and then thereafter I'll create users in those partitions only. So I'll create a user A for partition A, user B for partition B. So whenever a user A will get logged in, it will have access to that partition only, right? So user A will be able to view only those components which are created within that partition. So it's like more for security, okay? You cannot compare it with VRF, but yes, you have route domains as well. You can create route domains, and route domains can be compared with VRF. So ideally, you will be using different, you know, you will be using different partitions for different route domains. Like even we can have a different VRF for each customer, right? However, even if you have a single route domain, which is route domain 0, right, which is a global VRF, or you can say global routing table, still you can have multiple partitions. But it's, I mean, the better output of having multiple partitions would be when you are creating or when you are having multiple route domains. Okay. So that I'll perform later on, right? And then you can go to logs. Logs are really important. So these are the system logs. You can look at here. You could look for all logs, for all system logs, right? You can see that. Configuration reloaded, like that. Okay. Thereafter, packet filter is for ACL logs, audit logs. You can see that which all changes you have made here, right? So you could see here show all, and then you can keep scrolling down, and then you can see this is what I did here, right? SSH this, SSH that, right? So saves is config, right? I created this user. You see that? So whatever I'm doing here on this box, you can find of that all configuration under audit logs. So you can see who did what on this box in regards with configuration. Okay. But also you could configure a remote logging server. So if you go to configuration and then remote logging, then you can configure a remote logging server. So in case if any log message was generated over here, a copy of that log message will be sent over to this remote logging server, right? So that's how it will happen, right? Any questions so far from any one of you? Okay. I think that's sufficient for today. What do you say, Arjun? Because you have covered so many things here, right? We have covered a lot of things. So it's up to you. If you want to proceed, I can proceed with further. But in my opinion, this is sufficient for you to cover for today. Because we have covered so many things when it comes to the basic stuff, right? Like basics. Or what I can do, I can cover few more things related to network tab, like network, and then you can, let me draw a diagram here, right, for the big IP. So as I mentioned before, let's say you have a big IP, right? So now forget about the management port and console port and like that. If I talk about the data interfaces, so those interfaces are known as like 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, like that. Okay. So currently on my virtual edition, on my virtual big IP, I have three interfaces like 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. Now, rule number one, your interfaces will never work unless you configure VLANs onto those interfaces, right? So it's mandatory for you to create VLANs onto Big IP and to assign those interfaces to their respective VLANs. Okay, so for example, you could do it in this way. Let's say you have a router. Router is connected with Big IP here, right? And then Big IP is further connected with a switch, and switch is connected to your real servers, right, guys? So let's say this is your 1.2, this is your interface 1.1. Now the interface 1.1 is going towards router. Let's say you wanted to put it in VLAN 10, and the 1.2 you wanted to put it into VLAN 20, and then you have your IP addresses over here, right? So let's say in VLAN 20 you're using this subnet 192.168.20.0/24, sorry, 20.0/24. So 20.1 IP address will be allocated to Big IP on 1.2 interface, and that will be part of VLAN 20. And here, let's say I'm using like maybe 192.168.100.0/30. So 100 dot maybe, or maybe 24, right? So let's say 100.1 will be allocated to Big IP on its 1.1 interface. That will be part of VLAN 10. So that if R1 is connected with ISP, and behind ISP you have end users, right? And wanting to have the access those applications which are hosted behind Big IP, okay, in this data center. So this is all about the data center, right? So the router 1, Big IP, these real servers all belongs to data center. So from here, this client is going to hit the virtual server that I'll discuss later on, that what's the meaning of virtual server is. But first, we will have to understand that how to allocate an IP address onto these big IPs, right? And onto different interfaces, and how to create VLAN. But now you can see in this diagram, in this design, we have a single point of failure. Like if this link goes down, entire connectivity will go down. So rather using this kind of diagram, better you use this kind of diagram. So let's say you have a big IP, right? And then you have a switch over here, right, guys? You have three different interfaces like 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and over here maybe 0x1, 0x2, 0x3. Bundle all of them over here and also bundle all of them over there. Make trunk interface over here, right? And then let's say you have a router connected over here, and then you have real servers over here, right? Like real servers. So let's say it was 0x10, and these are like 0x11, 0x12, like that. So let's say it's part of VLAN 10, and here it's VLAN 20, right? And then over Big IP, you will have to create what? The virtual interfaces using VLAN 10. So you will have to assign IP address to VLAN 10 as well as VLAN 20. So here you can assign IP address like 192.168.100.1, and over here you could assign an IP address 168.20.1. So even it is also supported by Big IP. This is also known as single leg deployment or one leg deployment. This is also known as one leg deployment, because what you did, you performed Ether channel, or you configured Ether channel between Big IP and your switch, okay? And you configured it as a trunk port. This is what you did. And I mean, this is also another type of deployment that you could go for, right? Previously, we had like dual leg deployment, but this is one leg deployment. Okay. So in this one leg deployment, you don't have like single point of failure. So in case if any one of the link between big IP and switch goes down, there will not be any impact on end-to-end connectivity. Okay. So in case if you want to configure Ether channel on big IP, that's pretty simple, right? Let me show you that how you could configure that. So let's say you are on big IP and then go to network tab, right guys? And then go to your, interfaces. So you have three different interfaces, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. And all of them are not initialized yet because either you have to bundle them together or you have to put them into different VLANs. Then only those interfaces will get initialized. So if I go to trunk, so the meaning of trunk is here is Ether channel. In big IP, trunks are known as, Ether channel is known as trunks. So trunks, go and create it, put some name like test trunk, test Ether channel, right? Put all of the interfaces there, and then link selection, and remember that it will support only LACP. It will support only LACP, no static Ether channel, no PHE. Go and finish it. This is how you could configure it, right? Now you can see all of the interfaces have been initialized. All are up. So this is how you created the trunk port. So now it's in up state. Thereafter, you will go ahead and will create a VLANs. So go to VLAN, say create, and then say like the internal VLAN, right? Put name internal VLAN tag. Let's say it's 20, which is towards my lane side. Okay, tagging yes. Add onto this Ether channel, right? So go ahead and repeat it because I want to create one more VLAN, like external VLAN, which is my VLAN 10, through which I'll connect to my router, and again Ether channel tagged because I want to add the tag because whenever I'll give my frame to my switch, it must keep the tag of the VLAN. That's why I'm enabling the tagging over here, right? So go ahead and finish it. So this is how you could create two different VLANs, and thereafter you could go to the self IPs, and then you could assign an IP address to your VLANs. Okay, that's the one case. Let's go back. Delete VLANs first. Thereafter, you go back to your trunks and delete your Ether channel. Now, let's say I wanted to utilize these interfaces individually. So I will not perform Ether channel. So now all interfaces are down once again. The status of these interfaces will go down after some time. Okay. And moreover, it's a virtual edition, so you can always expect some misbehavior from the operating system as well. So in case if you do not use like Ether channel, you go and create VLANs directly. So assign some name to your VLAN, let's say internal VLAN ID, that's VLAN 20, and that's interface 1.2, and this time untagged because I'm using, dual leg deployment. So in that condition, in dual leg deployment, I'll be using access ports on my switch, so I will not perform tagging, right? So then again, say repeat. So create one more VLAN, and the VLAN name would be like external VLAN, and that would be VLAN 10. So wait for a moment. All right, so now external VLAN 10, let's say, and 1.1 untagged, that's fine. Add and then finish it. So you have created two different VLANs and you have assigned interfaces to those VLANs. Thereafter, go to self IP. The meaning of self IP is the IP addresses that you wanted to assign to your interfaces. Okay. So go ahead and create that. So let's say internal IP. What IP address you wanted to use here? That is 192.168. That's 20.1, right? Then /24, and then VLAN ID would be internal VLAN, and then that's port lockdown. Allow none. Let me say allow all by default, and then go ahead and repeat it. Now I wanted to assign external IP. So external IP, the IP address would be like 100.1, right? And then subnet mask, VLAN would be external VLAN, allow all, and then finish it. So ultimately, you have assigned these IP addresses to VLAN, and VLANs are mapped with their interfaces. So that's how you would allocate an IP address. You could also add the static routes over here, right? So it's up to you. So in short, you can see VLAN, interface 1.1 is part of VLAN 10. So whatever IP address you allocated over VLAN 10 is assigned to this interface. Okay. Same goes here. So 1.2 is having VLAN 20. So whatever IP address you assigned on VLAN 20 is actually assigned to interface 1.2. So that's how you would do it. So if you have any questions around it, please go ahead and ask those. If not, then fine. That should be sufficient for today. And next time I'll be doing this whole configuration once again, and then we will be adding nodes, we will be adding pools. I'll start with LTM part, okay? Because whatever we covered today is all about the system tab and network tab. And it's gonna same for all modules. Be it is LTM, it's GTM, it's APM, it's ASM, whatsoever. But these two tabs will remain same. So if any one of you having any questions, please go ahead and ask those. If not, then I'll see you in next week. And please make sure that at least you revise. And let me tell you, Arjun, what you can do, you can make this practice for this for these basics at your home itself, right? You can download the image of Big IP. You can have a workstation. You can install on top of that, and thereafter you can apply for the license. But before applying for the license, please contact me, because there are two different options. One, you could apply only for one license key, but in drop down you will get an option of 3 license keys. So always remember that you apply for the 3 different license keys, so that at least you would have three different keys. So you can install, or you can utilize those 3 keys, 3 licenses onto 3 different devices. Okay, so that's why I'm asking you to apply for 3 different keys. Okay, so in case if you are accessing our lab, again you will have to install the license, but you will have to ask for the license keys to me. You will have to come back to me. I'll provide those keys. Okay, so for example, let me give you one key over here. I have one spare key, so you can use this key. Okay, use this key and get one of the device licensed. Let me ping you. And remember, it is only for Arjun's use. You are requested not to use this key, because only one person can use one key. So Arjun, use this key that I have provided you, and in case if somebody else is also needed keys, please do let me know. I'll provide so. Okay. Yep. All right then. So that's sufficient from my side for today, and I'll see you in next week then. I'll see you on upcoming Saturday then. And upcoming Saturday is on 12th. So I'll see you on 12th now. And bye for now. Have a good rest of the day. Bye bye.
Okay.